There are plenty of ways you can make a film look good, but it's a lot harder to actually make it mean something. And we had 4 days to shoot 8 scenes, all to deliver one powerful message: breaking down barriers in sports. Today I'm taking you behind the scenes of a social impact campaign we shot for a non-profit called Benefit. From the lighting challenges, the cinematography, to the post-production process, all on a limited budget. But none of that really mattered unless the film actually did what it was meant to do. So at the end, we premiered it for the people it was made for, and their reactions would tell us if we succeeded or not.
Es war irgendwie ziemlich aufgeregt, was jetzt draus geworden ist, und ich fand den Film.
This project was made possible with the support of Fiverr. More on them throughout the video. So in this first shot of the film, we're in a car and our character is hearing a news report that people over 1.60 meters are not allowed to do sports anymore. And yes, I know that sounds crazy, but that's actually the point. We're creating this dystopian world where the exclusion is so obviously absurd that it makes you think about the real barriers that people sometimes face. And although a shot like this might look easy enough, it definitely comes with its own challenges. Now, luckily, we were able to get our hands on this cool-looking Saab 900, and also the owner of the car was happy to play the role of the driver. The first challenge, however, was setting up a cinema camera rig inside the car. So we've got the camera pointed at the car radio here, and as you can tell, we have a pretty interesting setup here. We've got the tripod in the back of the car. We've got the back seat down, and this car is pretty shallow, pretty low at the back end here, so we've had to move in a little bit, which makes everything a little bit tight, but it's working pretty well. And we've stabilized the tripod with some sandbags. Also, the weight of the camera is helping a little bit to hopefully reduce the shake while we're driving. We're going to be driving through a tunnel. I'm exposing for the exterior. That means that the inside of the car is going to be pretty dark. So our gaffer for the day, Rafi, decided to mount an Amran F21 light mat on the ceiling of the car. And when I say mount, I actually mean he used duct tape. But you can tell what a big difference a little splash of light makes, especially because the radio is the focal point of this shot. We didn't want it to disappear into darkness. Now, during the first takes, things were going pretty well, especially considering being squished in the trunk of a car. But that was until the duct tape holding up the light mat was slowly starting to lose grip. So we came in for a quick pit stop and some more duct tape, and we were ready to go for round 2. Alright, with shot 1 in the bag, it was time to change location and get the second shot of the intro scene. So we basically have a guy standing at a newspaper shop here in the city. He's looking at his phone, and we're going to do a nice dolly in.
Meine Rolle heute ist ein nachdenklicher Mensch, der irgendwie so Nachrichten sieht, der wo erfreulicher sein können. Ja? Deswegen bin ich jetzt auch hier die ganze Zeit am gucken, weil ich in meiner Rolle bleiben muss. Ja.
All right, so we've got the camera set up on the slider, and we're like on this little traffic island here. So it's not the best location where you want to be. There's cars passing around everywhere, pedestrians, bicycles, but high vis. We got high vis, so we're all good. Yeah, we're gonna have our character over there by the newspaper stand, and then we're pretty much good to go. With our safety precautions in place, it was now basically all about nailing the timing, waiting for the right amount of cars or bikes to pass through the frame, and also the right color. We, for example, didn't want a white car because that would just be a big bright object going through the frame. Anyway, definitely a lot of effort and patience went into getting a seemingly very simple shot. So these opening shots were essential in establishing the world our narrative lives in. But what you just saw is actually only half of the story. We really needed this to sound like an actual news broadcast, and this is where our first Fiverr collaboration comes in. Now, Fiverr has a huge selection of voiceover artists, over 23,000 to be exact, but we were looking for something very specific. It had to be spoken in German, a female voice, adult or middle-aged, and then we started by checking out the top-rated sellers. This is where we found Annette, who's worked with some really big brands, and we thought she had the perfect voice for our newsreader role. After explaining the project, she was excited to be a part of it, and she even improved a little detail in our script. It then only took us one revision to get the perfect voiceover we were after.
Morgen, hier ist Radio Südbaden mit den Nachrichten um 8 Uhr. Ich bin Susanne Winter mit den wichtigsten Meldungen des Tages. In einer überraschenden Entscheidung hat der Deutsche Bundestag in der gestrigen Sondersitzung ein umstrittenes Gesetz zur
But before we could send these shots to post, we had to tackle our biggest challenge yet, making a plain-looking sports hall look a little bit more cinematic.
Today is actually the biggest day as far as production goes. We're going to have a Panther dolly, and we're also going to have quite a lot of extras on set today. Either way, we set up for the first shot of the day, which is going to be a total scene here of the sports hall, and more specifically focused on the entrance there. We're going to have a worker put in the barriers and do a slow dolly in. And that's going to be the first shot of the day.
So this scene I'm talking about here is part of the intro of the film. We follow the janitor as he sets up the barriers and installs a measuring station. And these shots build towards what becomes the film's big turning point, where people are being measured, judged, and turned away for something that's completely out of their control. From a production standpoint, there was a lot happening in this one location. We've got these first shots with the janitor, but then the entire measuring sequence was designed as a single uninterrupted dolly shot, also known as a oneer. Now, if you don't know what a oneer, one shot, or one take is, it's basically an entire scene or sequence filmed without any cuts. That means the lighting had to be on point, but also the actors, the extras, and the camera had to be timed perfectly. Vincent and Chris handled all of the lighting here, and the goal was simple: make the space feel uncomfortable without calling attention to the lights itself. We started by lining the wall with infinity bars, positioned to mimic harsh fluorescent fixtures. That top-down lighting gives the queue this gritty institutional feeling while still blending naturally into the space. And you can also see them right here in these first shots, and they work perfectly as practicals. From there, we added a strong slash of light using an aperture 1000C hidden away inside one of the locker rooms. It's a subtle detail, but it adds depth and texture in these shots, and especially in moments like when the barriers are closing, where the frame needed a bit more tension. And finally, we pushed light in through this window using an aperture 1200X. That gave us just a little bit of extra separation, so right here an edge on the janitor, and later on the officials right here and right here. Next up was that one-take dolly shot, and this was really the spine of the film. The idea was pretty simple. In a single slow move, we wanted to reveal the entire absurdity of the situation. We start by meeting our main character as he enters the building and takes his place at the back of the line. From there, the camera tracks along the queue, showing just how many people are waiting. All of them frustrated, all of them stuck behind these barriers. And then at the end of the move, we arrive at the measuring station. Someone is being measured, two officials are checking the numbers, and the person gets denied. And just like that, we understand the rules of this world. And the dolly move creates momentum by constantly revealing new information. As the camera moves, the situation slowly escalates, from a mild inconvenience to something that is clearly absurd. And by the time the shot ends, the audience has seen the entire system at work without a single cut. Now, on the day, the biggest challenge here was for sure timing. Every element basically had to line up perfectly. The speed of the dolly, the actors hitting their mark, the officials communicating, and the moment somebody gets denied entry, all in one continuous take. One thing we quickly realized during setup was that the barriers weren't in frame on the dolly move. They were too low, and if you couldn't see them, the whole idea would kind of fall apart. Seeing people physically separated by those barriers was essential, so we actually used some gym equipment to raise them until we got them back in frame. Then we did a few takes to get everything to click, and even early on we could see it was working, which I can tell you is a great feeling to have on set. The movement, the framing, the performances, it already looked like what we had pictured in our heads. From there, it was just about refining the timing until we nailed it.
Ausweise bereithalten, bitte. Nicht drängeln, bitte. Ausweise bereithalten, bitte. Bitte. (505) 496.
496.
Once we had the dolly shot locked in, the last thing we shot in this location was the moment where the tension finally breaks. We follow the same guy we met at the back of the queue, and now he's pushing his way through the crowd, trying to enter the sports hall, only to then be stopped by security and thrown back out. We shot this sequence handheld using an easy rig, and that was a very deliberate choice. After the slow, controlled movement of the dolly, we wanted this moment to feel unstable and a little bit chaotic. The camera is no longer observing, but it's right there in the middle of the situation. And that contrast was really important. The dolly shows order, procedure, and control, and the handheld shot shows what happens when someone refuses to play along.
Gehen einfach, okay, Dankeschön, aus dem Weg gehen, Dankeschön, lass mir mal durch hier. Bitte, guten Tag, 172 Kammer. So, ja, ich lass mich einfach mal. Jetzt ein Problem. Ja, ich möchte jetzt einfach mal hier rein. Du bist doch selber viel zu groß, Mann.
Now, with that scene finished, we were done inside this sports hall, but the film was still building towards its most important moment, a final scene that had to carry the entire message. And that message felt way too important to let technical limitations hold it back. So at this point, the question became, how do we turn what we've shot into something that actually connects? Something that can change how people feel, or even how they think about the work that Benefit does. And music can play a huge role in conveying that emotion. Now, we knew right away that some generic stock music just wasn't going to cut it. The film needed something that followed its rhythm and its emotion, and we basically needed something that was written for this film. So we had a look on Fiverr. They actually offer a ton of services provided by freelancers from across the world and for every budget. Even music producers, composers, singers, and songwriters. But I'm not going to lie, we were a bit skeptical at first working with a music producer or composer on Fiverr. However, when we found Nick and saw that he had worked with brands like Nike, HBO, Asus, and Louis Vuitton, we figured we'd give it a try. Now, communicating creative ideas is hard enough in person, and doing it remotely always comes with the risk that what you hear back won't really match with what you had in mind. But Nick immediately started asking all the right questions, and he really tried to understand what the film wanted to express. When the first version came in, it was clear that he was on the right track, and after a few small revisions, we had our final film score. Looking back, the music is one of the parts of the post-production we're most proud of. And there's just something about having music specifically composed for what's on screen. So a big shout out to Nick and Fiverr, because it wouldn't have been possible without them. And now on to the final scene of the film.
Also wir schießen jetzt als erstes die Szene mit Mathieu, wo er zum Halten kommt, nachdem er vom Fußballplatz weggelaufen ist. Und dann sieht er die offene Tür, aus der Licht kommt und Geräusche hört im Sounddesign später.
Und dafür machen wir es sehr schick.
Exakt.
So this moment comes after a rejection. Our character here wanted to join a soccer game, he gets turned away and then runs. When we meet him again, he comes to a stop and something catches his attention.
We're here at this very cool industrial area, and we're gonna build some pretty awesome light setup. So we've got Vincent and Rafi both dealing with the lights. And I just heard the plan and it's gonna look pretty awesome. But in the meantime, Yannick and me, we are setting up the camera. We're putting the pixels on a slider and setting up for that first shot, which is gonna be a wide shot of this scene here when our character runs in. So yeah, good times.
So this alley needed to feel rough and gritty, almost hidden or underground.
Also wir wollen so ein bisschen eine industrielle Atmosphäre erzeugen und wir haben innen Kunstlicht, was nach draußen drückt, und haben draußen versucht, so ein bisschen in die Tiefe zu staffeln. Damit zum einen die Neonröhren über den Türen und erzählen 2 Straßenlaternen mit so Industrial Sodium. Es gibt so einen Kontrast zwischen Orange und Grün, würde ich sagen, ist die Farbwelt, in der wir hier leben. Und es soll so ein Spalt, warmes Licht aus dieser Tür herausdringen in die sonst etwas grungigere Gasse.
And that subtle slash of light doesn't only pull the attention of the character, but also of the viewer. It kind of suggests that something different might be waiting inside.
Gibt es eine große Herausforderung hier mit dem Set jetzt, wo du denkst, mal gucken, ob das klappt?
Wie immer bei so Dingen, die in die Nacht geplant sind, spannend, wie es dann wirklich aussieht, wenn es dunkel ist. Und das vorher zu prognostizieren, ob das Konzept dann aufgeht, zeigt sich, wenn es dunkel wird. Aber wir arbeiten da jetzt mal hin und dann schauen wir gleich mal.
What's so crazy about this shot is that we had to build this entire scene or the lighting from scratch. There was basically no light in this alley. And the goal here was to make everything feel real, so not artificially lit. The infinity bars are again great practicals, and lining them up along the wall added a lot of depth to the frame. The two other lights acting as our sodium vapor street lamps didn't just help illuminate the space, but also worked as a motivation for the key light we later used in the close-up shot. And the lights coming through these windows just makes the whole thing feel a lot more alive compared to when this would just be a black void.
Alright, so we're pretty much set to start shooting. Cameras on the slider. Obviously, again, the Pixis, we've got the 25mm Arliss primes here for the wide shot. And we're gonna do a slow dolly in.
Now the camera move here is pretty simple. We start off with a static wide shot as our character runs into frame. Then we go to a close-up to see his emotions and also his reaction to seeing that door. As our character then moves towards the door, we slowly dolly in and follow him in that direction. From here we move into the final location of the film and the scene that should bring it all together and hopefully convey the feeling that we're going for.
Alright, so we're setting up for the final shot of the film. Today we're in a sports hall where we're filming the final scene and we're setting everything up. This is going to be a big lighting setup once again. So basically the sports hall is in the basement. So those are the windows from the sports hall and we've got these lights blasting through there. We're going to haze that up and that's going to create some really nice volumetric lighting. Okay, so as far as camera setup, we're shooting this on the 35. So the first shot is going to be the wide shot. Basically when we have our character walking into the sports hall, and that same shot is going to be the last shot as well. But then we're going to do a dolly out. So that's why we have the camera on the slider again. We're doing the dolly out to kind of show that we're closing off the film, we're ending the film.
In this scene, our character enters the sports hall, a hidden underground sports hall where a group of people of all sizes are doing sports together. The lighting here had to do a lot of work. We wanted it to feel moody and underground, keeping a link to that industrial alley, but also warm and inviting, as this is like a safe space where our character arrives.
All right, so we're getting close to the final stages of getting the lighting set up, or at least I should say our gaffer Vincent is getting close to finishing up, and it's looking pretty awesome. So we've got those big lights outside, blasting light through the window. And then obviously the haze here is giving us these nice volumetric lighting, these light beams.
So this light coming through the windows are these orange sodium vapors from the street lamps in our industrial alley, and they kind of tie the two locations together visually. The haze then creates these beautiful shafts of light, giving the space depth and a little bit of magic, which makes the space a bit more inviting and helps convey that emotion of hope.
On the hallway over there, we have the actual hallway lights on to motivate our lighting coming through the door as our character walks in through the door. We've obviously enhanced that with even more lights to just push in more light through that door as he walks in to get like a nice beam of light to pull focus to that door as well. We also added the infinity bars, 3 infinity bars on the ceiling there to add a bit more interest to the ceiling, and to also obviously make sure that it's not looking like a completely dark sports hall. What's really cool is that the existing ceiling lights, they have this like metal frame around them, so we can just magnetically attach the infinity bars on the ceiling, which was super easy.
Now shooting this scene again required a lot of coordination. There were so many people in the frame and it could have been very chaotic, but our director here, Severin, did an amazing job keeping everything under control, guiding the performances and making sure that we got some really great takes. So we wrapped up the film, everyone was exhausted but satisfied, and I was looking at 4 days of footage thinking we've got some really great stuff here. But there were still a few very important pieces missing. Because if this project was really going to help promote the work that Benefit does, it needed to live beyond the edit timeline. Because if no one sees this film, it really can't do that much. So for the final touches in post, we once again got some help through Fiverr. We had a motion designer create a clean animated version of the Benefit logo for the end of the film. Something that felt professional and intentional without pulling focus from the story. And we also worked with a designer to create a film poster that could be used to promote the project. It might seem like a small thing, but visuals like this are often the first point of contact that people have with a film. And we really liked the work of Daria here, and she was quick in picking up what we were after. What was actually really great is that she sent us all these different sketches to choose from, which to be fair was a bit harder than you might think because we actually liked all of them. Anyway, with those final pieces in place, everything started pointing towards one fixed moment, the first screening. Up until then, only 3 people had actually seen the finished film: the director Severin, producer Fabius, and me. So this premiere was the first time the entire film would be seen as it was meant to be, by the actors, the extras, the people from Benefit, and friends who had supported the project along the way. So sitting in that room, watching it with an audience for the very first time was probably the most exciting part of the whole process. At that point, there's really nothing left to adjust or improve. The reactions in that room would tell us whether the message landed or didn't.
Ich fand den Film richtig bewegend, sehr beeindruckend, was dabei jetzt rausgekommen ist, weil es ein wichtiges Thema ist und das auf so eine eindrucksvolle Art rübergebracht wird.
Ich war über das Endergebnis sehr berührt.
Aufweckend am Ende. So, man hat so das Gefühl, so, nein, da ist was falsch. Und ich fand die Musik auch sehr gut. Wer hat die Musik gemacht eigentlich?
Das war sehr, sehr, sehr skurril, sehr absurd teilweise.
Ich bin echt sehr positiv überrascht und freue mich, wenn wir den Film jetzt bald auch nutzen und nach draußen bringen können und damit unser Thema des Vereins verbreiten können.
Ja, der Film hat mir nochmal auch gezeigt, wie sehr man sich einfach an das gewöhnt, was man hat, und vergisst dabei, glaube ich, auch so ganz schnell, oder so geht's mir, was andere eben nicht einfach so haben können. Deswegen ist es wichtig, dass solche Filme sowas auch immer wieder einem zeigen können.
Hearing people talk about what the film made them feel or what it made them think about was incredibly rewarding. It meant the story connected, and that's really all you can hope for. Now, a project like this only works because of the people behind it, and everyone who was a part of this film did it pro bono. So a massive thanks goes to the cast, the extras, and most importantly, the crew. And also a big thanks to Fiverr for sponsoring this project. Definitely go check them out if you're looking for freelance artists. I will leave a link down below, and if you want to save some money, you can use the code FILM10 for 10% off your first purchase. Anyway, that's it for this behind the scenes video. I hope you enjoyed coming along for the ride, and if you want to check out the entire film, it will be up here or linked down below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!